Hello everyone, my name is Julia. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be covering the case that deeply touched my heart. When preparing for this video and reading the materials, not only I was horrified by the crime itself, but also I couldn't believe that investigation could be mishandled that much. Kevin Fox was born and raised in the small town Wilmington in Illinois. He grew up there and he couldn't imagine himself leaving this place. He saw himself building the life there, getting married there, and just staying there forever. When he was in high school, he met a wonderful, beautiful girl, Melissa Rossi. Her family moved to Wilmington when she was just 3 years old because her father was diagnosed with cancer and he just wanted to live in a quiet and peaceful area till the rest of his life. That's how they ended up in Wilmington, and that's how Melissa noticed Kevin on high school volleyball game. She immediately thought he was very shiny and just had nice personality. She wanted to approach him, and she did. Melissa asked Kevin for her homecoming. And that's pretty much how their love story began. They started dating and their relationship escalated quickly. But later on, Kevin started college at Illinois State University. And shortly after, when Melissa was just 18 years old, she got pregnant with their first child, Tyler. Kevin, he was also just 20 years old. And later in his interviews, he said that they were just very young and it all was scary, so they actually broke up for a short period of time. But Kevin always knew that she was the one, she was his soulmate, and they wanted to be together. They were meant to be together. Kevin always knew that. That's why he quit college, they got back together, they moved in together and started to live their life as a family. 3 years later, in 2000, Kevin and Melissa were married. They were raising their son together, and Kevin worked as a union painter and Melissa worked as a waitress. Kevin was the kind of father that would spend all of his free time with his son. He would make sure that he did everything, went above and beyond to make his son Tyler the happiest little boy. Kevin's mother described him as a very loving father who changed diapers, fed and bathed kids more than the average father. 1 year after their marriage, Kevin and Melissa had their second child, beautiful and shiny girl, Riley. She was known around neighbors and family friends as a real princess and very much of a daddy's girl. She would always be somewhere near her father. Kevin's Fox father said that Kevin and Riley did everything together. And he also said that if you saw one of them, you generally knew that another one is right behind. The weekend on June 5th and 6th of 2004, Kevin and Melissa spent separately. Kevin and his brother-in-law went to a concert on Saturday of June 5th. Melissa was in Chicago with her friends to join breast cancer walk. Kevin planned to meet her on Sunday in Chicago with the kids. They even draw signs to hold up for her when she would cross the finish line, but that never happened. According to the statement Kevin later gave police, he picked the kids up and drove them home around 1 a.m. Then he was just too tired to make their beds, so he laid the kids down in the living room, locked the front door, and just retired to his bedroom. He was unable to sleep at first, so he watched some TV, snacked, and then he went to bed around 2:30 a.m. He planned to drive the kids to Chicago the next morning to meet Melissa at the finish line, but that never happened because the next morning, a little earlier than 8 a.m., he was awakened by his son Tyler. The only thing Tyler said was, "Riley is gone." Kevin tried his best not to panic. He searched the house for his precious girl, but he couldn't find her. The only thing he noticed was that the front door, the door that he locked, and the screen, they were both slightly open. Then he ran to the house next door where Riley's best friend lived, and again, no sign of his daughter. And then Kevin called Wilmington police, but he did not want to raise the alarm prematurely, so he called non-emergency line. He later explained it as he just did not want to panic. However, this action was questioned by police a lot. Meanwhile, Melissa was calling her husband to talk about the family meeting they agreed on earlier. She wanted to arrange things, but when her husband picked up the phone, she said he was just crying, and the only things he could say is, "Riley is gone and I can't find her." Later, Melissa said that she felt a chill and she just had this terrible feeling that she will never see her daughter again. The same day, the massive search for Riley began in the area. More than 500 people were out there looking for her. People were riding horses, bicycles, driving cars just to find this little girl. Police at the same time were searching Fox's family home, and they did not notice anything suspicious. There was no sign of forced entry, nothing was missing. Everything was just fine, except for one thing: the lock on the back door was broken. And Kevin said that it was like that for a while, he just never fixed it. Unfortunately, the miracle did not happen, and before the day was over, a searcher found what she thought was a bag of groceries, but that was the body of 3-year-old Riley Fox. She was found in the creek in nearby Forsyth Woods. She was laying there face down, and Kevin described Riley wearing pink flamingo decorated t-shirt and pink capri pants, but when she was found, the only thing she was wearing was that t-shirt. No underwear or no pants. The autopsy would later reveal that this girl had been sexually abused and she probably died from drowning. Her mouth was covered with duct tape, and based on the marks on her arms, authorities assumed that she had been bound. The medical examiner also noted the light bruising on Riley's head, and the DNA samples were collected from Riley's body. On the same day, at the same block, police responded to a burglary. This burglary took place in the house right across the street from Riley's home. And Red Beretta was also reported to be driving around the neighborhood on the Sunday morning. But police told the media that there was no connection in between those accidents and Riley's disappearance. At the crime scene, police also found a pair of white sneakers. Those sneakers were matching footprints at the bank of the creek. Inside the tongue of one shoe, it was written EBY with the marker, but police didn't know if these footprints and the sneakers are related to the crime or not. After Riley's body was found, her parents were brought to the station for questioning, and at the time they didn't know anything. They didn't know if she was dead or alive. At the time, Melissa recalls still hoping for her daughter to be alive, but little did they know of what they were going to go through during the next years. It was just the beginning of many months of uncertainties and pure torture for their family. Police were suspicious in Kevin, but everyone who knew the loving father just could not imagine him being somehow involved in this terrible crime. The investigators decided to first interview Tyler, who was just 7 years old at the time of the events, and he was the one to tell his father that his sister was missing. This interview was mishandled, to say the least. It was just terrible. This interview took place at the Child Advocacy Center, and Tyler was interviewed by a specialist in interviewing children, which makes it actually worse, because she asked Tyler if his father took Riley outside the house. He said no, but she asked him 168 times. She repeated the exact same question 168 times. Keep in mind, it's a 7-year-old boy who just lost his sister. He is also terrified and confused, and you are asking him the exact same question so many times. Of course, he started crying hysterically. He became upset, because who wouldn't? So the interviewer kept pushing Tyler to implicate his father, but he is a strong boy. He did not. He said what he said. Kevin Fox did not take Riley outside the house. In October, after many days of waiting for any information regarding their daughter's disappearance and brutal murder, Kevin and Melissa were brought into the station again, and at the time they were separated into different rooms. The room in which Kevin was brought was designed to facilitate recordings, but the camera was off throughout the entire interview, and this interview, we should talk about that in details because it's just disgusting. So They brought him into that tiny room. He was one against several detectives. The interview took place at 4 a.m. After him working the whole day as a painter, he had the whole day of work. He barely had anything to eat, and he was stuck there with those detectives accusing him of sexually assaulting and murdering his own daughter. And he, of course, tried to defend himself in every way possible. For example, they said that the car similar to his was noticed around morning hours near the creek at the day of Riley's disappearance. And him knowing that he was sleeping, he sarcastically said, maybe someone snuck into my house, took the keys, and then drove my car around and then brought the keys back. That was a sarcastic note that he made, but police did not get it. They portrayed this as him trying to defend himself in such a stupid way. Kevin said that throughout this interview, police threatened him and berated him, and they were just pushing. One of the detectives said that he knew people in jail, and until Kevin tells them the truth that they know is the truth, this detective would make sure that Kevin, let's say, would be sexually assaulted in jail every day, which is, of course, he used more colorful language. I just don't want to say that out loud. Police asked him to take a polygraph test, which he agreed to, and according to police, he failed. Now, when Melissa asked to see the results of this test, the detective was like, see, it's failed. No explanation, nothing. This interrogation lasted for 14 hours. After these 14 hours of interrogation, Kevin said that he felt emotionally, physically, and mentally broken down, so he just saw no way out of it. That's why he decided to agree to whatever they want him to say. He just said what they wanted to hear. The detectives, they basically forced Kevin to give the confession of the things that he had never done, and he did. At 8:32 a.m. they turned on the camera and recorded his confession, just 1 hour of this 14 hours interrogation. And according to Kevin, what he said on this tape, he came home around 1:30 a.m. then ate a snack, watched television including an adult video. Around 2:15 a.m. he went to the bathroom, swung the door open quickly, and accidentally hit Riley in the head. The girl appeared lifeless. That's when he panicked, and first he thought he was going to take her to the hospital, but then he decided that it would be better to make it look like an abduction. He duct taped her mouth, bound her wrists together with tape. He drove her to a bridge over Forsyth Woods. This part is actually disturbing because according to his confession, he said that before dumping his daughter's body into this creek, he inserted his finger inside her to make it look like she had been sexually assaulted. He then supposedly went home, cried for a little bit, and slept. Throughout this whole interrogation, Kevin repeatedly asked for his father and an attorney, and he was told, "You are 27 years old, you don't need your father." That's an actual quote. So now Kevin was in jail awaiting trial, and the state was seeking death penalty, but he thought he may actually not make it till his execution because other inmates, they knew very well that Kevin was in jail awaiting trial on child murder and sexual assault. That's why Kevin did not feel safe in jail at all. At the same time, his family hired a high-profile attorney, Kathleen Zellner. This attorney is well known for helping clients who have been wrongfully convicted. Now, remember the DNA that was collected from Riley's body? A good question is why it hasn't been tested. And Kathleen Zellner learned that the Will County told the FBI to stop testing the DNA samples after Kevin Fox was arrested. They were like, do we need actual evidence? No. They just brushed off all of the real evidence just because they thought Kevin Fox was guilty. And of course, after the DNA was tested, it revealed that it's not a match to Kevin's DNA, and that means he has nothing to do with the murder of his daughter, and all of the charges against him were dropped. Kevin and Melissa filed a federal lawsuit against Will County. They explained that they were judged and called baby killers in their community. They went through a lot of trauma for this. They won this lawsuit and received $8.5 million. And only in 2009, 5 years after Riley's disappearance and murder, FBI took over this case. They received an anonymous tip from a woman. She claimed that she was dating a man who was out of prison on parole and lived in Wilmington in June of 2004. She said that this man acted strangely about Riley's murder and made her feel uneasy. She also said that this man was now in prison for sexual assault of a relative, and the man was identified as Scott Eby. Now, Scott Eby was born on June 22nd in 1971. He had a troubled childhood and grew up in an abusive household. A woman who knew Scott as a child said that she saw him being beaten, saw him having bruises on his body, and he got in trouble as a youth for stealing things from school and home. By the time he was just 17 years old, he was first sent to prison. His first conviction was for forgery in 1988. He was then sent to prison in 1992 for burglary, and he returned to prison again in 2000 for another burglary. Scott spent the majority of his adult life being in and out of prison, but in between of his incarcerations, he managed to get married with a woman. Her family stated that Scott abused her. One witness said that one time she heard her screaming all the way down the road, running away from him, and then she tried to climb the window, but he was beating her, pulling her hair and stuff. Scott was out on parole in 2004, living with his mother just approximately 1 mile away from Riley's folks' home. In 2005, Scott was convicted of sexually assaulting his relative, while the husband of this relative was just sleeping in the next room. Now he was in prison in Lawrence County, Illinois. The FBI learned that he tried to end his life many times, including the day of Riley's disappearance. Police had responded to Eby's home that day but did not connect two incidents, although he was literally asking officers questions about Riley. So the FBI went to talk to Scott Eby in prison, but he denied knowing anything about Riley's murder. After the FBI agents left, he called his mother and said that she had to come to see him one last time. Then when she came, he confessed that he had done something really bad. He later confessed to his mother, saying that he killed Riley. After that, he wrote a suicide note and had an attempt to end his own life by hanging himself in the prison cell. But Scott survived the incident and gave the videotaped confession to the FBI agents. Scott told the FBI that he had been influenced by alcohol and illegal substances that night, and he decided that he wanted to burglarize some homes. He entered the home across the street from Riley Fox's house, this burglary that we spoke about earlier, and the police brushed off this burglary as unrelated one. Turns out it was the same person. He also told the FBI that he was driving his mother's red Beretta, which again was seen the next morning around this neighborhood, and police thought it was unrelated. He said he found Fox's home and he noticed that the back door was unlocked. He then entered the house, went to the living room. That's when he saw the kids laying there. He said that when he saw Riley, he fixated on that little girl and decided that he wanted to abduct her. He backed up his vehicle right next to Fox's house, re-entered the house, abducted Riley and left. He said he put his hand over her mouth and drove to Forsyth Woods. Then he sexually assaulted her in the nearby bathroom. The fact that this bathroom was never processed by police, being literally so close to where Riley's body was found, is truly shocking to me. Scott told the FBI that his bandana had slid off his face and Riley had seen him. That's when he decided that he had to kill her. He bound her, duct taped her mouth, and put her in the creek. Riley drowned in that creek. And if you think it's not disgusting enough, there is one more gruesome detail. Scott said that throughout this whole attack, Riley was crying for her daddy. The father who was accused of such a horrific crime turns out to be not the monster, but the protector Riley was crying for the night she died. Scott Eby pleaded guilty to 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of predatory sexual assault of a child, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And the condition of his plea deal was that he has no right to appeal his sentence, which means he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. As for Kevin and Melissa, their lives had changed dramatically. They had another child, a daughter, but their marriage could not survive the trauma they went through, so they moved, they divorced, they got remarried. And if you think this case couldn't be more tragic than it already is, I have to disappoint you, it actually gets worse. March 20th last year, Kevin was driving his car and he had crashed on with the car that was driving in the opposite direction. Both men, Kevin and the driver who was in another car, they both died. Kevin's former attorney, Kathleen Zellner, posted on X saying that her heart goes out to his family and everyone who loved him. Kevin was just 46 years old. Unfortunately, I have nothing positive to end this video with. It's just so tragic and disappointing, but at least I am happy, or maybe just relieved, that the real predator is in prison and will remain there forever. That's the only good thing in this case. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to share your thoughts and opinions on this case in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in a few days.